Alright everyone, I'm not going to change the camera angle right now. We're trying to experiment. I got my plastic paint card. I got a temporary tattoo. We're going to see if we can put that on my card. Back in a bit. I'm going to sit down instead of what I've been doing. Okay, I put a temporary tattoo on my color card. And you know what? It looks pretty decent. Now that temporary tattoo was black and red. You can see it's black and red. You can't see the red because it's on red. So what I'm going to try now is I'm going to try something with some color to it. See how it looks. And if it looks okay, we just found some art for cars that's cheap and easy to get. Or other models. Real cheap and easy to get these temporary tattoos. I got packets of them at the dollar store with like 15-20 tattoos in them. So let me try again. Be back. I'll show you what how it works. One, here we go. First things first, you need a clean surface. Well, all of us are used to that when we're painting. So this surface is fairly clean. Second, you need a damp rag. Paper towel that's wet works. You take your tattoo, you peel the protective plastic off. We're going to see how well this guy works. You put him down on your surface, and I'm using a really dark surface for a reason. I want to see something. Decals, I'll explain that in a minute. You put it down on your surface, you take your damp rag, just hold it against the back of the decal, you count to 100. Now, I'm putting on a really dark surface for a reason. If you get some decals from a bad company, and I'm not going to say any names here, but, well, I bought some decals from a bad company that were aftermarket for the Mercury 9, okay, and it wasn't Paragraphics. Let's put it that way. I've never had any problems with anything from Paragraphics. It was that other company. You can do your research, you'll figure out who it is. I'm not going to name them by names. Those decals were not printed with a white layer. Most decal companies put a white layer down and then the decal, because if you don't do that and you put it on a dark surface, the decal just fades out. When I look at this temporary tattoo here, it doesn't have that. I can see the reds. It was a black and red temporary tattoo on red. These look like they got that white layer to them, or the decal film's so thick and the ink is so good, dense, that it doesn't have the problem decals do. Okay, that might have been long enough. We're going to find out. You can tell if it's long enough when you try to peel the decal, the backing paper away. Yeah, it was long enough. Okay, now this is a result that was expected. Disappointing, but expected. Okay, take a look. None of the colors are coming through, which means if you want the colors to come through, you got to put it on a white background. So the temporary tattoos suffer from the exact same problem that homemade decals suffer from. Don't get that white layer down, got a problem. That means if you're going to use them on anything other than white, you got a mask. But the happy thought is, if you get a black and white one, it's fine. Perfectly fine. So that means if you want some trouble markings running down the side of your car, you're good to go. Or if you can find that design you want in black, you're good to go. They go on pretty easily. They're not perfect. Okay? And we can see colors did not come through. You can see it, and that's on a very dark background. And that was the test I needed to do. I needed to see if you could see it through a dark background. The blacks come through, nothing else does. So they're transparent. Alright everyone, that does it for now. I'll be back later doing some more work on Mercury 9 or Honda. I almost got the Honda where I can put everything together with the interior. And I got to start working on electronics. Yes, I'm doing electronics. Not lighting, electronics. There's a difference. Electronics imply you're doing things to the lights. So I got some electronic work to do on the Honda, and that involves the interior. So, told you guys I had evil plans for that Honda. So I will be back soon. Hopefully. We'll see. All depends. Have a good one.
Well, everybody, it's been 2 weeks since I've touched a model because of work. And I just pulled this out of its box. I've left it sealed in this box, started looking at the paint job. And see that white spot? Somehow a very large speck of dirt got underneath the paint. So I just lightly sanded it off. I'm going to throw a little bit of paint right there to fix it. Okay. But the rest of it's okay. I mean, rest of it came out very nice. Really nice. So I'm about to start working again. I'm going to work on the suspension today. Okay. And get the suspension all cleaned up. And then I will be working on the interior and putting the engine together. I've got to do a few things before I can really start putting parts together. I have to figure a few things out, what I want to, the direction I want to go with this thing from here. Because the original direction I wanted to go got challenged and changed over the last couple of weeks due to various things. Okay? But that's the way life is. I'll be back at this, though, and I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm going to dry brush part of the suspension real quick, though, because I told one of my viewers that I would show them how I did the top of the Honda engine. And I did that the same way I'm about to do the suspension part. So I'll be back in a bit.
Alright, everyone. Now, I'm trying to decide again whether I should light this kit or not. Simply because of the lack of room inside the interior of the kit. If I'm going to run any wires, grooves have to be cut in the bottom of this. There's no way around it. I cannot run my wires any other way. It's too tight of a fit for all the parts. The dash has that much room behind it. So I could light this dash very easily and have the tape deck light up and have the instrument panel light up. That's not a problem. Just a few fibers back there and 2 LEDs. They will fit behind this. You know, I'll go nuts drawing little tiny holes for that, but they'll fit. Okay? And I can cut that off. The gauge cluster right here, I can cut that off and replace it with a piece of white styrene or clear styrene so light transmits through it real easily. And it's not an issue. It's just if I'm going to do it, I gotta grooves underneath here. Plus I had some other ideas in mind for this car. And it just is going to be a fun thing to light up. Let me tell you, this will be a really fun project to light. As for lighting the rest of the car, it's just not going to happen. There's far too much, there's not enough room. There's no room in there to get the LEDs for the amber lights. If I'm going to light the headlights, they have to be fixed up. They'll fit in LED. I'll have to carve it out a little bit, but they'll fit in LED. But don't know how I'm going to run the wires without it showing. So I'm really considering not lighting it. It'll make the base a lot easier to do. I'll also have the model done by next week. No doubt there. Because lighting is what's going to slow me down. It's going to take me an extra 5 or 6 days to do the lighting. Because those teeny tiny LEDs. Don't know. Again, I won't be able to light the lights on this car. That's just going to be impossible. Just so everyone knows, there's just no way to light the lights on this car. I could do the headlights and that's it, and then they'd be fixed in position instead of collapsible up and down like they will be if I don't light it. Because there's the backs of the headlights. There's room for an surface mount LED in there, especially if I carve it out a little bit. There's no doubt in my mind of that, but I'm still a little worried of this. We'll see. We'll see if I can cut some channels. That should be my first order of business. See if I can cut some channels. See if I can get the LEDs to route. The wire to route. If I can cut enough channels and I can get the wire to route, we're in business. So, I'll be back. No more just sitting here staring at it. I'll be back in a bit. I'm working on a model. I prefer a frosty Virgil's root beer. Does the body good. I'm not going to slam it like Model Man Tom did his Guinness. Which is not the same. Everyone, this thing will groove up just fine. And I'm getting those grooves deep enough to handle magnet wire with little or no effort. And it's not going to affect the structural integrity of this at all. So I'm going to be at it. I got to cut 2 grooves per side, 2 LEDs, maybe more. We'll see. I have plans for this little Honda, and I think I'm going to start getting on those plans. I think they'll work. Just getting things to fit is going to be a challenge. One other thing, if you remember, I had a bad dust spot on the body of the car. Well, it was there. Right there. You can't see it. I'm letting the paint cure up in the spray booth a little bit. When it's done, it's going to go back in that box and sit for a couple of days. I don't need to work on the body till next week with my current schedule. So it's sitting in the very back of the spray booth to keep dirt away from it with the spray booth running. You can hear it running. That thing's got strong enough motor that the dirt never makes it to the very back of the booth. Anyhow, I'm going to get back to cutting grooves. I'll be back when I start soldering LEDs and figuring out what I'm going to do. I'm not going to light the headlights, but the interior seems to be fair game. We're going to light the radio dial. We're going to light the instrument panel. I might give her some interior mood lighting too. Let's see. Let's see what I do. Alright, I'm contemplating doing something to make anyone that knows anything about electronics cringe. But if you really know what you're doing, you wouldn't cringe. I had this coil of Cat 5 cable. That's wire I salvaged from a Cat 5 box. I have a 100-yard box of Cat 5 cable in the garage. I bought it back when I used to do computer work and found out that it was bad. I can't sell it because anyone hooks a continuity tester up to the either end is going to find out it's bad. But lengths up to 5 feet were fine. So what I'm doing is going to take one of these and strip all the insulation off and fit it in my groove, because I don't want to work with magnet wire unless I have to. This is pretty small gauge wire. It won't fit in there with the insulation on. That's not going to work. If I can strip the insulation off the length I need, sorry, root beer. I can strip the insulation off the length I need to run in this groove. And that won't be any problem because it's going to have its own groove to run down. And that will allow me a lot of happiness because I'll have a lot of room and I won't have to use that tiny magnet wire. And I just looked at the magnet wire I have 2 different sizes. And one is just tiny. I mean, it's like a hair. Soldering a hair to a SMD LED is not a lot of fun. I'd rather solder this stuff to it. So I'm going to strip some of this off and see if it works. I've got my little wire stripper here. Of course, my wire stripper needs to be adjusted for the size of this stuff. And let's see. Oh, they cut it instead of stripping it. That's because I made it too small. Things that happen on camera if you don't prepare beforehand. Yes, what you see from me is live. I don't make scripts. I don't prepare myself. There we go. There's a good piece stripped. Let's see how that fits in this groove. That groove would have to be deeper. I'm going to have to use a magnet wire, because the gauge of this wire is the exact same thickness as this thing. That does not make me happy. I mean, literally, this is as thick as this. So, the two parts won't be able to fit together if I go with this wire. Well, it was a thought. Magnet wire it is. Alright, everyone, I got my grooves cut. Yeah, there's a lot of them. I want to make sure I got a groove that works. What I'm doing is I start to groove with my razor saw. I've had this thing since I was probably about 8-15, and then I finish my groove up with a file. Okay, and yeah, there's 6 grooves here. I don't need that many grooves. I only really need 2, but I want to make sure I've got grooves that work. Now I'm going to cut some wire and test fit and make sure it's fitting in that body. If it's fitting, we're good to go. I can start working on either soldering LEDs or getting this ready to receive the LEDs. Haven't figured out which yet. I think I'm going to save soldering LEDs for tomorrow. Just work on getting this part right here ready. I got to cut that instrument panel out, and I got to drill holes for the radio so I can put some fibers in there. Okay? And those are the fun parts. I've got time for that, so I think I'm going to attack this next. And then clean up my work area. I got dust and landscape turf and stuff everywhere. So, back in a bit.